Last night, AEW did a round of releases for the first time in their history. It's the first time they've done loads of cuts of the roster at once. And there were 10 wrestlers released in total, so I'm going to talk about all of that today. And yes, I did say 10. We're top 10 wrestling today, not top 3 wrestling for once. So yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about all 10 of the wrestlers who were just released from AEW in their first round of releases. Stu Grayson is an odd one because Stu Grayson is someone I've discussed on this channel before recently, as he came into AEW on the first ever show, Double or Nothing 2019, debuting alongside Evil Uno as the Dark Order, and obviously that stable would grow and have regular TV time for the first couple of years. They had Brody Lee in the group, they recruited Anna Jay and Preston Vance and Alan Angels and Colt Cabana, they were teamed up with Hangman Page, but after Page won the world title, their TV time got more occasional and Stu Grayson would depart the company in 2022 before returning to AEW in 2023, I believe the first wrestler to leave the company and come back, and he'd return briefly as a member of the Dark Order but would then leave the group to join the Righteous in Ring of Honor. But then out of nowhere, after losing to the Dark Order in July of 2023, Stu Grayson has not been seen in AEW or Ring of Honor programming or alongside the Righteous whatsoever, and now obviously he has been released, meaning he's the first AEW wrestler to exit the company twice. He's the first to get released and have his contract expire, I guess. I don't really know what to say, but I guess if they weren't using him, then this is the best case and he can go work the indies and do some good stuff alongside Evil Uno on DPW and other promotions. Jose the Assistant, I don't really know what much else to say about Jose the Assistant other than that he was Andrade's manager in the company. That's kind of what he was known for and what he did in AEW, and obviously this past December Andrade departed AEW and is now back in the WWE. I don't think Jose the Assistant has done anything since that happened, so there's probably not much else use for him. I'm guessing that's why he's been released here, and I don't really know what else to say. We have Dasha Gonzalez, who is an ex-WWE wrestler and also an ex-WWE announcer, and when she came to AEW, she started off announcing for the Spanish broadcast and even tried one match in AEW. She was part of that weird tag team tournament, and she was definitely a lot better as a ring announcer than she was as a wrestler, and I think she was pretty good at what she did. She did ring announcing, but mainly backstage interviewing, and I thought again that she was pretty good, so I'm actually quite surprised to see her be released here. But AEW has a surplus of ring announcers and backstage interviewers, and they already have Renee Paquette, so I'm guessing that she's just been lost in the shuffle of all the ring announcers, and that's what's happened here. The Boys, aka the Tate Twins, this is a really weird release due to the fact that they were right in the middle of a Ring of Honor storyline and one of the most major Ring of Honor storylines going on right now between Johnny TV and Dalton Castle. The Boys went along with Dalton Castle and they were a package deal. The Boys always came along with Dalton Castle, and this storyline with Dalton Castle and Johnny TV saw Johnny TV beat Castle to steal the Boys from him. And it was a pretty good storyline, and like I said, the Boys were right in the middle of the storyline, but this past week on Ring of Honor, the Boys weren't present for the Dalton Castle and Johnny TV segments on the show, and it was said by Taya that they were eaten by bears or something, and now they've been released, so I guess that's the official way that they've been written off in Ring of Honor, which is crazy. Gravity, I believe, started making appearances last year for AEW, and I think he was signed for pretty much one reason, and that was just for him to face Pac. Just so they could do the man Gravity forgot memes and forgot jokes. But honestly, this is one of those guys I didn't even realize he was signed, and there's a couple of these guys on this list that, again, I didn't realize was signed, and I'm surprised he actually was released because I quite enjoyed him and thought he was a good wrestler and a good high flyer and a fun masked wrestler. I think he's kind of a perfect fit for Ring of Honor, so I don't know why they've released him. I'm not expecting to see him on AEW TV or anything, but you could at least keep him around for Ring of Honor, surely. There's Jora Joel, who again didn't realize he was even signed to the company or signed at all, because I don't remember the last time I even saw him make an appearance for AEW. I remember him from the pandemic era, and he was of course part of the Hardy family office. And I don't think he ever actually made it onto TV with the group. I think he was always left on Dark, even though he was in the group. And then obviously that group died out. And I haven't seen or heard of him in AEW since that group died out. He might have been on Dark, but I was never really a Dark viewer. Either way, once again, just didn't realize he was signed. He's not been on AEW TV or programming in a long time. But I guess now he never will again. Anthony Henry getting released is a true shame because Anthony Henry is a really good worker. If you don't know, Anthony Henry is in a tag team with JD Drake, who has been kept here, so they clearly rate JD Drake. And they're called the Workhorsemen, and they're a very underrated team. I'm going to put some footage on screen right now of their work in DPW, which is some stuff you should definitely check out. And just a guy I'm puzzled that why wouldn't they want to use him on Rampage or on Ring of Honor. This is a guy who again comes with a tag team partner, JD Drake. They're a good tag team, so why release Anthony Henry? I don't understand it. And the guy is also injured. He's injured, he's recovering from injury, and I know that injury didn't happen on AEW, but that's still a bit of a shame to release him while he's injured. Slim J. What do I even have to say on Slim J? One of the weirdest AEW signings. I'm not sure what he even did other than in 2022 and 2023 for a bit. The Trustbusters, himself, Parker Bourdeaux, Sonny Kiss, and Ari Daivari, the most random faction in AEW history. I do know he has been on Ring of Honor, but I know he's also been a jobber on there and kind of been doing the same thing he was doing on Dark before. And yeah, he's just a jobber. I think he was mainly brought in for his wrestling experience, but he's clearly a guy that was never going to go anywhere in AEW, rising up the divisions and winning titles, and clearly they don't see much else use in him. But unfortunately, he wasn't the only Trustbuster that was released that day. Parker Bourdeaux was also released from his AEW contract, and when I saw that AEW were doing cuts, I was preparing myself to see Parker Bourdeaux get released because I think it's something that was probably going to happen, and of course, it has. Parker is a guy who was signed to WWE, being billed as the next Brock Lesnar, which is a crazy way to hype someone up, but he was released from his WWE contract so early on when he had just started to do something in NXT. Clearly, WWE did not see anything in him, but AEW of course picked him up, and like I said, he joined the Trustbusters before also joining the Mogul Affiliates. And his stays in both factions were short-lived because he didn't last in the Mogul Affiliates as they merged with the Mogul Embassy and he was left behind. And he's been out with an injury until he returned to wrestling recently at a AAA show where he called AAA his home. He then clarified his comments and said that AEW is also one of his homes and he has at least months left on his AEW contract, but alas, he has now been released from his AEW contract. He's not been seen on AEW program in God knows how long. He's had one match on Rampage, and that's his entire career on AEW TV. He's had just the one singular match on AEW TV, and then done a whole load of Dark appearances, and then Dark obviously died, so there was not much use for him after that, and clearly the guy just isn't rated by WWE and now AEW. And yeah, that's all 10 of the AEW releases from yesterday. Overall, I think I'm not surprised by pretty much all of these, other than maybe Dasha and Anthony Henry and also The Boys, just because The Boys were in the middle of a storyline. But these are all wrestlers that were never going to be world champions in the company, let's be honest. And releases suck, but a lot of these people I'm not surprised to see on this list because they've all been lost in the shuffle for a while. And that AEW roster is bloated, so I don't know whether we're going to see more releases or not, but I would not be surprised if we did.